Yes, commentary.
Shitnas can
Good afternoon, comrades. My name is Mujale Fanale. I'm co-directing this program with Comrade Promise Nkosi Simbi. She will be joining the session once she's able to log in. I'm taking this opportunity, comrades, to welcome the Dango family, the leadership of the Alliance present here. A special welcome to our veterans, Comrade Bridget Mabandla and Comrade Ibrahim, excellencies, provinces, regions, the leagues, and all of our members and supporters watching on different social media platforms. We are gathered here today to celebrate the life of a great revolutionary. I happened to be one of the people that trained with Comrade Shan in Angola. Comrade Shan passing comes at a time when our people, our country are faced with different challenges. Different speakers here will be able to give their testimony. They'll be able to pass homage. They'll be able to say all the different things that they know about Comrade Igshaan Dangor. We used to call Izzadien Kahn. They'll be able to share their experiences. They'll be able to show all the good things that makes us today to celebrate the life of this great revolutionary. In terms of the program, we're going to get a slideshow on the life and times of Comrade Igshaan Dangor, and thereafter there will be messages. The first message will be coming from the ANC Joburg Regional Secretary, Comrade Dada Murero, who I think he has already logged in. And then the second speaker to give a message will be Comrade Fumanekile Boy on behalf of Umkhonto Sizwe Veterans Association. So without any waste of time, Comrade Shanaz, can we show this to make the slideshow on the life of Comrade Igshaan? Thank you very much, Comrade Shanaz. We have just seen the slide showing the lives and times of Comrade Shan, and maybe many people could see me smiling because I was interacting with one of the comrades that we trained together, and he's saying, Comrade Shan looks a bit fat here because he was skinny during our training. But what lively pictures, lively in a sense that they indeed show Comrade Shan as a family man. The pictures do show how humble Comrade Sean was. And in all the pictures, we can see the forever smiling face of this great comrade of ours. As I said, amongst us here, we have dignitaries, we have leaders. I needed to recognize, as I do now, the presence of the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress. I must also acknowledge the presence of Comrade Opa Munareng, that we normally call Tekere. I think he has also joined in here. Comrade Tekere was the staff commissar at the time when we were training together with comrades. Without any waste of time, let me move forward in terms of the program and invite Comrade Dada, the Regional Secretary of the ANC Joburg region, to take the floor. Comrade Dada.
Thank you very much, Program Director, for affording me the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the African National Congress in Greater Johannesburg. First, we would like to send our deepest heartfelt condolences to the family of Comrade Shan and the entire Dangor clan. This is the greatest loss to the family, and not only the family, it's also a loss to the African National Congress, to the people of South Africa, and the South African National Defence Force. It is also important to note that today we stand with the family after they've experienced such a tragedy in a very short space of time. For a family to have lost at least 3 brothers within such a short space of time, I want to say let them stay strong and find solace in the fact that all 3 of their brothers have made their contributions to society, and their names will indeed form part of the history of South Africa. And not only the history of South Africa, but the history of the struggle for national liberation. So their names will definitely be engraved in the history books. So with those words, we would want to also acknowledge that Comrade Shan had played his role in the struggle. We are told that he left the country in 1984 at the height of the struggle in South Africa, where young people had taken a decision. And in that decision, they declared and said, freedom or death, victory is certain. Now, Comrade Shan belonged to that generation of young people who vowed that whether they would die and lay their lives for the freedom of our people. So they were committed in ensuring that freedom comes in their lifetime. So they took it further from a previous generation of Nelson Mandela's, Walter Sisulu, and so on, a generation that said freedom in their lifetime. But this generation was unique in that it said death, victory is certain. Now, Comrade Shan belonged to that generation that was brave, that was prepared to lay down their lives for me and you to be free today. And today we have realized in a number of things that have been happening now lately in our country, in our movement, that the entire investments that have been made by this generation have now been squandered by some of us who choose or believe that access to gaining material things defines how and who we are, defines our own individual successes, as opposed to us really being committed to the liberation of our people and ensuring that our quality of lives of our people is improved. Comrade Shan came back into the country, served his people in one of the areas in Johannesburg called Riverlea, Westbury, and continued to serve the people, establishing branches and structures of the ANC so that we can continue with our march to freedom, with our march to a non-racial and democratic society. Now, with those few words, we want to say to the Dangor family, especially to my friend and comrade, Ambassador Dangor, who even today is continuing himself to serve the people of Johannesburg, to serve the people of South Africa. He's always on the ground, interacting with our communities in one of the most poorest regions of Johannesburg, Region G, which consists of areas like Orange Farm, areas like Tembelihle, and so on and so on. And he continues to serve our communities in those areas. Just want to say to Comrade Dangor and the family, Comrade Mohammed Dangor, that we as the ANC in the region of Johannesburg, we are with you. We were with you in the last 5 weeks when all this tragedy came into the family. And Kastswana re or Kasisoto re tiang Modimo na le lona, and stay strong. They always say when the dark cloud comes, things might be better and might be greener on the other side. So kamantswa ra leboga le program director for the opportunity ya leadership ya Johannesburg to give a message to the family, especially to Shan's wife and the kids. He has made his contribution, and there's nothing more he could do. And we must just celebrate all what he has done in building this country and bringing about freedom. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Comrade Dada. Comrade Shan, as we have said, was a member of Umkhonto with Sizwe, the glorious army of our people. And to talk or give us a message from the ranks of Umkhonto with Sizwe, I'm inviting Comrade Fumanekile Boy to take the stage. Comrade Fumanekile Boy. Well, if she hasn't logged in, we'll find a way of accommodating her once she's able to do so. Comrade Shan lived with comrades, lived with friends. He had colleagues with whom he was working to execute various responsibilities that this movement had always given to him. At this point in time, we will request reflections from those who worked very close to him. I'll start with Comrade Patrick Flask.
Okay.
Reflections.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Program Director. And I must say that I really appreciate this, even though being close to the Dangor family, that they still ask me to do it. So I feel very close with that. Some people, well, Zane will know, Jesse will know that at one stage I stayed there with Jesse. So it is true that initially that I've learned about Shan, and also interacting with Mama Dangor and with Effie. I've learned quite a bit with Shan, and that was before 1984. So I must just tell the family, besides giving themselves, they have even given themselves individually, besides giving themselves as a family to the country. And one such person they have given is a guy called Shan, and with his lovely family there that have never stopped him from continuing to be involved. And I met Shan in 1984 in Zimbabwe. And there was a comrade from the Youth League that was in a meeting with us because we sent a youth delegation there. And so, and he came and he said, there's somebody down here to look, to want to meet with you, and his name is ECD. So I know him as ECD at the stage. And just to come, and of course I immediately saw this was a Dangor, knowing them from before. But I know comrades will talk about the exile days, the MK days. What I particularly want to talk about is this impressive human being that came to join us in Ivoli after the unbanning. And he came with haste to join us to build and develop the ANC, to develop the community structures that we have set up there, like the Ivoli Resource Center, the daycare center, the civic movement that we had, the Women's League, the Youth League. So he came and assisted us to strengthen, but not just in Ivoli, but as Comrade Dada was saying, in other colored townships throughout Gauteng as well. And he also, in addition to that, strengthened the relationship with us and comrades from the townships as well that he met during his MK days. Even though we had a relationship with the comrades from Soiko and Alex Youth Congress, the UDF days that we were quite involved with. But what was very instructive about this human being was he was a quiet person. He would hardly ever speak, because when he opens his mouth, you will note that he reflects deeply on what he is about to say. It's a person who thinks deeply. It is a person who speaks with passion and with commitment. And so throughout his life, from when I met him, he conducted himself in that manner. Somebody that was quiet, that was silent, would just get on with doing the work, building the structures, never advance himself to be in leadership, to be in a particular position, but wanting to do the slog work. And that is what you would find in this person. And as I'm saying, when he talks, he will talk about deep things. How we need to understand the ANC, how we need to understand the mass democratic movement, the difficulties the ANC faced then, the difficulties the ANC face now. He would even talk about it and say, these are moments that we need to change so that we can learn from them to take the ANC to a higher level, to a deeper level with more meaningful understanding, so that we must embrace the challenges, fight them to the T, and fix the organization to the extent that we want to. And that is because it is a person who's quiet, who's silent, who reflects deeply. And that is what struck me about this human being. So again, to the Dangor family, it is so sad that they've been nailed with this situation during COVID-19. And we were fortunate in Ivoli, we had almost all these Dangors working and building structures there with them that we could learn from and so on, whether it was Ahmad Dangor or Mama Dangor, and of course, Jessie played quite a big role with us in all these communities, both provincially and nationally. And that speaks to where she is today and so on. And whether it was a young Zain or a Bas that was involved with us, it is people who gave their life, both as a family and as individuals. And so when I call on all of us here, when we think of Shan, let's think of Shan in a sense that he was there to improve and develop and strengthen the ANC. Thank you, Comrade Chair.
Thank you very much, Comrade Patrick. I'm sure many people that are watching this service are beginning to get a picture, a full picture of Comrade Shan and the contributions that Comrade Shan has made in advancing the National Democratic Revolution. Wherever he is, he was a person who is prepared to contribute. The next speaker to make a reflection is Comrade Opara Mashela, who unfortunately could not make it to the live memorial service, but has given us a video of his reflection. For many of those who were in exile would know Comrade Opa Ramashela as Makanda Senzaka Khona. That is his combat name. Comrade Shanaz, would you kindly play the video of Comrade Opa Ramashela?
The Dangor family, comrades and friends. My name in the ranks is Makanda Senzaka Khona. I met Comrade EC in 1986 in Vienna, our camp in Luanda. I remember three things of how I met EC, which I tend to associate with him. One is that our national leadership was visiting and we were in the hall as I was soon to address the national. That hall, there's something very particular about that hall. It was the work of the 8th February of the Tribute Detachment who fell in Wanki and Spolilo that greeted you when you entered that hall. And it read, a revolutionary dedicates himself to the cause of a better life. A revolutionary loves life. And he knows that life does not end when he himself dies. I was in the tent that day. I could not attend the detachment meeting as I was temporarily blind as a consequence of taking chloroquine, malaria treatment, for the second time it happened. There was outside in front of, and the second thing that I associate with you is the gift of sight that he bestowed on me. I asked him to write a poem for me. I literally borrowed his eyes, and he became my pen and put it together. Patiently, here was this person, a trainee, on his way to the camp, the leadership visiting, eager to go to the hall and be with the others and listen. But he patiently, without quibbling, took word for word, sentence after sentence, erasing, and he put it together for me. The poem was onwards ever, backwards never, which subsequently found place on the editorial board in the camp. He would subsequently in life made his way to Kakulama and to the new camp of Moses Mabida where he trained, and we would later meet at home where he had returned, I'm told, in 1989 to build structures of the movement in the southern Transvaal. I'm grateful for the gift of sight. I cherish our encounter and appreciate having found a family to return home to know your family. The early generation detachment of this movement in the MK established base and fought in combat in Wak. The following detachment of June 16 established base in Angola and frustrated even the bandits who thought they would eat lunch in Malanje in 1983. This generation that EC belonged to, of the of the young lions that the common, they defended that base in the northern front. They frustrated again.
He knows the guy. Yeah, man's with Ryan. Okay.
We who made it home,
It's like me.
we who could see the day that came, and we who returned had the challenge and the task to ensure that this struggle too of memory against forgetting is one, and that we win it. Thank you very much for the family for bequeathing EC to us. We have a duty now to raise living monuments that must translate and relate and realize the deferred in the economy and in the cultural and social emancipation space, and tell the story of those who made it possible that we reached here, and to EC and the family.
Okay, Comrade Shanas, I take it that that brings us to the video message of Comrade Opa Ramashela. As I request comrades that are logging in to try by all means to mute, because somewhere, somehow, we're getting disturbed as they come in. But thank you very much to Comrade Opa. We might not have fully heard everything he has said on my side. The volume was very low. Comrade Opa Ramashela, we met him in Vienna, as he was saying. That's where we met him with Comrade Izzadien, and that is where we made our very first interaction with Umkhonto Sizwe members that were in combat. For the first time, we saw members of Umkhonto Sizwe in uniform carrying their AK-47. I remember very well at that camp with Comrade Izzadien, we always complained about a term that we felt was derogatory when they referred to us as newcomers. They used to call us croissants. So every time in the evening after we have done our work, me and him will go to a corner, and then he would say to me, but why did they call us this croissants, 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 croissants? So every time we turn around the corner, somebody will just come and say, hey, croissant. We come this side, and that's where we started to taste the military life in Umkhonto Sizwe. And I must just indicate for record purposes that that is where we had the National Executive Committee, the High Command of Umkhonto Sizwe, delivering the battle commands. And at that place in the hall in Vienna, for the first time, what excited us was when we saw Herman Toivo Jatoivo. Herman Toivo Jatoivo arrived in Vienna transit camp to join the leadership of the ANC, who were presenting the battle orders that were issued by the commander-in-chief. Thank you very much, Comrade Oupa. The next speaker to do a reflection is Comrade Mbulelo Musi. I don't know if he has already logged in here. Comrade Mbulelo. Okay, if he has not logged in, we will see how we get space for him once he does so. The next person to do a reflection.
Chairperson.
Yes.
Am I allowed?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Comrade Musi is here. You are Comrade Musi. Please take the platform.
Thanks, Comrade Shelwin. I still have to adjust to the Mujaliswa name. I've known you as Selwyn, one of our commissars, who I jointly met with the late Sean, who I say may his soul rest in peace, in 1984 in a camp called Vienna in Angola. Perhaps before I make a few reflections on Comrade Sean, let me express my sincere and heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family. I call them my family because I've crossed lives with some of them in different circumstances, in different times of our history. I've worked under Comrade SG, Deputy SG, Comrade Jesse Duarte as a spokesperson. I've worked with Comrade Igshaan Dangor in the social development community. And I also had some time and few moments with the late that we're celebrating today. And I deliberately say celebrating, because from the first time I met him to the time of his passing on, he was a man, a comrade, a revolutionary, an MK cadre who lived his life to the fullest in service of our people. I first met him, we were in that group that we were complaining about, and I was one of those who used to call Kursans. In 1984, least did I know that we were hating you, because Kursant in our language means a trainee, which we borrowed from the Russians. A curso means a course. A Kursant means a person who's still being trained. Least did we know that we're inflicting wounds that are going to catch up with us after freedom. Anyway, that's on a light note. Comrade Sean struck us as a man of high integrity and ethical conduct at the very beginning of joining MK. I remember in Vienna, if those like Shelwin or Mujalifa will remember, in the life of MK camps, we used to have cultural activities. We used to have a range of things that were meant to express our commitment to the revolution. When they arrived in Vienna camp in Luanda, which was a transit camp with the Selwins of this world, we had a cultural group that used to sing but also recite poetry. Sean being Sean, quiet but very assertive, he joined our group and struck us. We were normally reciting either in Zulu, English most of the time so that audiences can hear. And here he comes, very unassuming, very, very calm, and joins our group and starts reciting in Afrikaans. By the way, recall that some of us would have left having some sense of anger against Afrikaans and as a medium of instruction. And then he recited a poem that he had written that was called The Sendiklip and the Kuo, between the stone and the bullet. And we were struggling a bit, some of us who didn't understand Afrikaans. And when he was able to narrate it, it was meant to say that it was reflecting the struggles of the young people of Soweto who were fighting with stones against bullets, and echoing the resilience that those students were showing. That turned our approach to Afrikaans. That turned our approach to the fact that Afrikaans can also be part of the revolutionary languages we use to fight the enemy that was actually imposing it as a language to oppress. He made an indelible mark from that day. And as Comrade Patrick Flash said, he was very quiet and unassuming. Not talkative, but when he opens his mouth, you would see that he's thought through what he wants to say and make an impact in the discussions, whether it's political discussions, which we used to have every day in the camp. We used to have political news analysis. He would not just speak, but when he speaks, you would not resist to listen. From those days, we again crossed our lives when he came back and joined the Defense Force. And at the time when he joined the Defense Force, again, he was consistent with unassuming personality, very humble, but very dedicated to the cause of our people's struggle. I think I must say that your loss, Comrade Jesse, your loss, Comrade Dangor family, is our loss. It's my personal loss. I think young as he was as an MKK, that I learned a lot from him. Later as a Defense Force officer, I also learned a lot of him. But it was reflecting of the commitment that the Dangor family has always had and continues to have in the struggle to build a better life for our people. I want to remember him by saying, I think the best way to remember him is by some of us who still have some life to go, to rededicate ourselves, to emulate him by continuing to be disciplined cadres of Umkhonto Sizwe, though it's not existing as MK, but the discipline that taught us. Continue to commit to serve the African National Congress, renew it in line with the decisions of the conference, ensure that the ills that we're seeing in the movement, we've combated them because they become an insult to such dedicated cadres like Sean. I want to say to the family once again, I want to say to the Umkhonto Sizwe former combatants, to the African National Congress and the people of South Africa that you served with such honor and dignity. May his soul rest in peace. Hamba kahle Umkhonto, till we meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mbulelo. You'll see me smiling all the way here because we are celebrating that life. The name of the group was called Tami Mnyele Poetry Group. And the first time we were on stage with Comrade Izzadien was on January 8th. The Tami Mnyele Poetry Group. And he came after me because we had to take the stage one by one. And it was after, and I was very, very young at that time, after I took a stage and did a poem called Balaklavaman. So Balaklavaman was a poem that spoke more about the police coming at night with balaklavas coming to attack. So as they were clapping their hands excited by Balaklavaman, then he came with this, the cool and the what and the what and the what. And the whole camp went frenzy because they did not expect somebody to can make that kind of a poem. One of our unsung heroes, as you say, Comrade Musi. These are the comrades who never walked about in the streets wanting them to be known that they are Umkhonto Sizwe, they did this and that, but definitely they have done something. Thank you very much, Comrade Musi. At this stage, I want to invite Comrade Cindy. I don't know if he has logged in, Comrade Del Dumsani. Comrade Dell was in the same platoon as Comrade Izzadien. Dell, are you in? They were in platoon 1 in Matrosov, a base called Matrosov. I don't see her here. Hopefully she would be able to join as well. But then the next speaker is Comrade Mtobeli Tengimfene. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Comrade Almond Dolo. We were in platoon 2, Ekechwayo base, together with Almond Dolo. We're getting used to these names, Mtobeli Tengimfene. So can I invite you on stage, Comrade Almond, to speak about this great revolutionary of ours?
Good afternoon, everybody. As the MC has said, my name is Mtobeli Tengimfene. I was known as Elmont Dolo in MK. It is a very great honor to have been invited to talk on this occasion about Izzadien. I trained with Izzadien in Panimulukwan, what was called in the East. I was in Tsekyayo in platoon 3, and he was in platoon. I was in platoon 2, he was in platoon 1. So we went through the basic course in 1987. As you would know, the MK training, it was about endurance. That is what then we went through with Comrade Izzadien, and that's also what talks to his character. I had another opportunity to work with him in 1988 when I joined the regional commissariat in Vienna. I was responsible for education, Izzadien was responsible for publicity. What stood out during that time is his demeanor. He was very quiet, very focused on his work, very dedicated. He would go about his own tasks, delivering on his tasks, but questioning and engaging, but not in any defiant manner, but he will always engage on issues. He will always engage on substance. He was somebody who was very dependable. And during the time that we were in the commissariat was also the time of what was known as the Northern Front, our continuous engagements with the UNITA rebels. And as the commissariat then, we would from time to time be engaged in the Northern Front on a rotational basis. And Comrade Izzadien would also, without question, be involved in those in all the tasks that he was assigned to. I'm feeling very honored to have worked with him. I think he displayed a lot of dedication to the struggle. He displayed a lot of commitment and genuineness that you would depend upon. He displayed the character of a true revolutionary, as the character of selflessness. He needs to be honored as such, as one of those comrades who have been outstanding in our quest for liberation, but also who has been unassuming. And it was never about himself. It was always about the bigger cause. He is somebody that I learned from a lot about what it means to be committed in doing what we all claimed to be committed to. So it is such a great loss to us, therefore, as a country, as a nation. And to MK, it is very sad to lose comrades of the caliber of Izzadien, particularly at this time when MK is fighting to reclaim its legitimacy, when MK is fighting to preserve its legacy. It is people like Izzadien then who should be used as the benchmark of who and what MK is. And it is such people then who should have been mobilized now to come and give the true character of what an ANC person is, or what MK Revolutionary is. I'm sure we can always draw lessons from him, and also inspiration that we should do whatever is in our power to reclaim our space, particularly amongst, during this time of such challenges that we are facing as a country and as a movement. With those few words, I would want to say to the family, by the way, I'm one of those who laughed at the pictures at the beginning, because it was very different from the Izzadien I last saw 32 years ago. I guess we were still very thin then, but I think he was thinner than I was. That's why it was very nice to see these nice pictures of him, developed man, with a family man. And to his family, I wish you all the strength to deal with your loss and know deep down that your father, your husband, was a revolutionary. Thanks, Che. Thanks, everybody.
Diabulela Dolo. And I think gradually these messages are getting in the heart of the Dangor family. These are soothing messages. These are consoling messages that your loss is our loss. You had one of the individual that was committed to the discourse of the revolution. And we're happy that the family has made him available. It was a good moment to be with Comrade Izzadien. And Mtobeli is talking about training having been one of those processes that needed endurance. Now, during our training, our instructors, as I said before, you could say today that they did not have mercy on us. Upon arrival, they gave us all of this name that, no, they just add cheese, these people. They are just from yogurt. Take it out. Take that yogurt out. Now, Izzadien, there's one exercise he did not like with all his heart. We used to call it number 9. Now, number 9, it was like frog jump. He did not want that exercise with all his heart because it troubled his knee very much. So when he would complain to the instructors, they say, no, that is not your knee. It's the knee of the people of South Africa. How do you feel the pain with a knee that does not belong to you? It belongs to the people of South Africa. That's how the instructors used to instill the discipline, and told us that selflessness means you cease to be yourself. Everything that you do it for the people of South Africa. Thank you very much, Comrade Dolo. At this stage, Comrade, I don't know Comrade Comrade Promise, I'm saying Pinky because it was her name. Comrade Promise Nkosi Simpe should have logged in now, and I'm going to invite as my co-director or co-program director to invite the remainder of the speakers that are supposed to do the reflections on Comrade Shan. Comrade Promise. Well, she will also come in when she's ready. She's the co-program director here, and Comrade Promise was in the army together with Comrade Izzadien. So we could not have Comrade Uriel Abrams today, who was supposed also to speak, but unfortunately he took ill this morning and he is unable to speak. But Comrade Uriel is one of those comrades that were very close to Comrade Izzadien, and it's a great pity that he will not be able to speak, and we also wish him a speedy recovery. Without any further ado, let me invite Comrade Tony, Comrade Pirwani Pala, to make his reflections. Comrade Tony. Comrade Pirwani, have you logged in? Well, I'll get an indication once he has done so. I'm going to proceed to invite one of the comrades that has trained with Comrade Izzadien. He was in platoon 3 at a base that we called Gwelo, and they were called the Gwelo Lions. And this is none other than Comrade Andrew the Admiral Castles. And let me invite him on stage. The Admiral, please take the platform and make your reflections.
Thanks, Comrade Shelwyn, as I know you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're fine. Go ahead, Comrade Admiral.
Thanks very much. And firstly, thanks very much for the invitation and opportunity to say some words today about a lost, fallen comrade. I want to, of course, firstly extend all sympathies to the Dangor family and any friends who may be watching. To all our leaders and comrades present, you know, it's such a tragedy that the COVID-19 not only affects us like this, but also prevents us from having a communal memorial, which would have been a wonderful thing to do today as well, and a very fitting thing. Because of the comrades who've spoken already, I can say it's already stirred within me some very lasting memories, things I hadn't expected to hear us talk about today, such as the number 9 torture or exercise that was inflicted on us, or that we became very good at doing in MK, which, of course, for those who don't know, was essentially a frog jump, holding your weapon over your head and in the bending position, jumping like a frog for hours and hours. And I know that Comrade Izzadien, like all of us, would have endured many, many hours of that. And that's how I get to talking about Comrade Shan, as I knew him, Comrade Izzadien. I know that my father, Ronnie Casriels, had extended condolences to the family and to Comrade Jesse. He's out of the province these last couple of days, and I told him that I was going to be sharing some reflection. I mean, he asked me again to convey deepest sympathies and revolutionary greetings and sympathies to the family. You know, I had received a message from several comrades about the death of Comrade Izzadien. And the first comrade who'd sent me a picture was actually Robert McBride. And it's the same picture that I'm seeing that you're using as the remembrance photo. I think it was taken in 1996. And, you know, I looked at this picture and I thought, there's someone here who I recognize, but I can't place. And I shared the picture and the news with a couple of comrades who I trained with. And I trained at the same time as Izzadien, as I'll go to explain. In both cases, they also said, you know, I recognize, there's something here I recognize, but I can't place the comrade. And of course, the reason is because in that photo, I think of the times that I knew and encountered Izzadien, I never saw him look as serious as he does in that photo. And that photo is taken in 1996. Of course, that is some 8 or 9 years after we knew each other in Kakulama, in Bani Mulukwani Training Center in Angola. And so that picture is a picture of Izzadien when he's a soldier in the SANDF. And the reason why he's not smiling is why I didn't recognize him, because I then followed up and I had received a call from Comrade Uriel, and it was finally our program director, who I know as Comrade Shelwyn, who called me. And he just said two things, and immediately my mind could see Comrade Izzadien. And I immediately now, I can look at that photo again, and this is the man I know. It's amazing how the mind works. And it's amazing how a person, in this case, Comrade, can imprint themselves in your mind for the rest of your life. As soon as I recognized him, I realized the reason I didn't recognize him is because of his gentle smile. That's how I would explain or describe him as a person, as how I knew him. The two key points as a human being was a gentle smile and very knowing eyes. This is my very personal memory. The first time I met him, the comrades, Shelwyn and the other comrades, such as Elmond, had already passed through the transit camp in Luanda and gone to Kakalama, which is in the northeast of Angola, and they were preparing to start the 6-month commander basic training MK course. I'd come from another country and I had arrived by different means, and I got to Luanda, I stayed in Vienna briefly, and then I went to Kakulama, where they had already been for 1 month, and training was about to commence. The 6-month course was about to commence. And it was shortly after that that I met Comrade Izzadien. And as you can hear, it's very watered down now after many years in South Africa, but I then had essentially come from the UK, where I grew up in exile. And amongst the many comrades who I got to know as a soldier in the early days, he approached me one day and just said, hey, he introduced himself as we did, started sharing our experiences of what this new army life was like. And then he very quickly said to me, you know, he recognized my accent. And he immediately said to me, you know, were you from London? And as all MK comrades will know, we were all asked to be very secretive about where we had come from, who we were related to in life, which township we came from, for security reasons. And of course, we all had these combat names, his being Izzadien Kahn, mine being Mike Wells. And, you know, I confided in him because he had a very trusting, very amiable manner. And I was actually amazed that within a few minutes, he actually said to me, you know, I know a couple of people through my family in London. And if my memory serves me right, I think he mentioned people like Comrade Freni Chinwala, perhaps, but definitely a comrade in the London office there called Nat Pillay, who I was very close with. And so I realized, okay, so like me, this is somebody from a political family. And we realized that we had that in common. And as we proceeded through training, when we would meet, this gave us the opportunity to, you know, share our feelings about what MK life was like. And we developed a nice friendship during those 6 months on that basis. I also hadn't recognized him because, as other comrades are making light of, in later years, of course, like we all do, he gained weight and in a very healthy way. And I'm glad to see he has a very healthy family with beautiful wife and daughters and managed to make that success in life. But, you know, in the MK days, in 1987, he was very slender, very lean. And the particular platoon that he was a member of, and I think there's other comrades who are going to speak from that platoon, which is referred to as Matrosov, Platoon 1. My enduring memory of him is wearing a particular combat outfit. We were a guerrilla army, so there were various combat outfits we had through training. The ones that they wore there at Matrosov was an MK uniform that we affectionately referred to in MK as D-Banana. It was a D-Banana uniform, which was a very bulky uniform. definitely could only be worn well on someone of a very large stature. So again, my enduring memory is of a very gentle man, comrade, with a very slender look in a huge uniform draping over him with his very knowing eyes. And I then met him again in Shelwyn's poetry group. We had once a week cultural activities, and we both found ourselves as members of Shelwyn's poetry group. Shelwyn joked that some of us, especially Izzadien, were taking cover in the poetry group because we didn't want to be out loud on stage. We were quieter guys. And I know that it was a bit of a joke, but I do think, as Comrade Shelwyn's already indicated, that he surprised us all on the stage by this very quiet, unassuming comrade suddenly bursting into life and delivering a very powerful poem to the soldiers, to the cruisants, the troops. The base that he was in was far away from mine. A guerrilla camp, an MK camp, is a very large, it encompasses several kilometers, and the bases are far apart, and we run from the bases or toy from base to base, but generally we would meet in the main base. And the Matrosov base was up in the hills. It was actually the toughest base to get to physically, because we were always ordered to run there. And I know that's something that Izzadien joked about, and others complained about, was the amount of running that had to be done up and down all the time to get from where they were to meet us in the main base. But we often met on kitchen duty, at jazz night, and of course at these poetry nights. The one thing that was drummed into our head, and this is my last recollection, something that we made fun of now and again, because it was always quoted in MK. And this is a very famous, as comrades will remember, Bertolt Brecht poem, not poem, but a quote from the great poet. And it really, for me, the way we heard it so many times during our basic training in those 6 months, the hardships we endured, the camaraderie that we enjoyed, one of the things that rang through all the time when we spoke, it was on posters around the camp, was this quote from Bertolt Brecht. I think it's good to quote it today because having learned now about the family history and life history of Igshaan Dangor, and I regret not having met him in later life as we have all gone on with our daily lives. I would really have loved to have done that and talked about old times. But the Brecht poem, the Brecht quote that was drummed into our heads is very fitting for Igshaan Dangor's life. And that is that there are those who struggle for a day and they are good. There are those who struggle for a year and they are better. And there are those who struggle for many years and they are better still. But there are those who struggle and commit their lives to struggle for their entire life. These are the indispensable ones. Igshaan Dangor, Comrade Izzadien Kahn, was one of the indispensable ones. His life has shown us that. And history, revolutionary history, will remember him as your father, your brother, your husband, our comrade, who contributed his life to the building of the nation. To the family, I wish all strength at this difficult time and all you're enduring. Hambagashli, Umkhonto, Comrade Izzadien Kahn, Aluta continua. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mike Wells, Comrade Andrew, the Admiral. You also presented a picture to whoever else who might have doubted the credentials of Comrade Izzadien as a member of Umkhonto Sizwe. You have completed that picture from another platoon. And I am sure those that are watching the memorial service today do have now a picture that they did not have about the camp life. and how the camps were structured and how we used to relate. And thank you very much for that, Comrade Andrew. I'm just saying that you were taking cover in poetry group and you have correctly put it. But really, our poetry group was one that was reflective more of the demographics of South Africa. Having you and having Comrade Izzadien. I remember I used to attempt to become a choreographer because I will choreograph how we as the group will enter the stage individually and recite those poems. And thank you very much for having been part of that group. And I indeed also thank Comrade Izzadien to have been part of that group. I don't know if Comrade Promise, are you in now? You are my program director. I can't finish the whole program without giving you an opportunity. Are you there? Comrade Promise? Okay, I still don't see her. Comrade Cindy, are you in? Right, Comrade Cindy is also not in. At this stage, let me invite His Excellency Ambassador Chris Pepani, General Pepani, to take the platform and make his reflections. Ambassador?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, first and foremost, I would like to say thank you very much, Program Director, for the opportunity to speak at this occasion. And also allow me to convey our very deep and profound condolences and sympathies to the Dangor family, in particular his dear and loving wife and two beautiful daughters. Sean was a family person, as has been outlined by our comrades earlier on. He was very, very close to his children. He was very, very close to his family. And of course, close to his sister, his only sister. I also just recall that at one time, the DSG, when she was working in Gauteng, within the environment of safety and police, she had taken too much off work and extra work. And during that period, I was the chief of staff of Gauteng Command, and we used to coordinate a lot with Gauteng Safety and Security, and held meetings in Braamfontein. And Sean called me to say to me there's something that he wanted to discuss with me. And in fact, it turned out that Jessie DSG was unwell and she had been hospitalized because she had taken too much of work and extra work. I wanted to indicate that sign of Sean, of being very, very, very close to his family as a family person. This morning, Program Director, I was privileged to have been part of the mini memorial ceremony that took place in Tabatswana, organized by the Department of Defense. And I take this opportunity in my capacity as well to thank the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the National Defense Force for having arranged such a splendid and very, very moving occasion for our comrade. It was very, very dignified, very, very decent, and typical of what Sean is, a dignified, calm person. Sean was very, very calm. Even the way he walked, if you looked at his demeanor and his gait, But as said previously by all the speakers, you would actually have to engage him to get out the Sean in him in all his forms. I was also lucky that when we worked, or after we came back from outside, we met at Shell House and were part of the senior officers that were to assist MK headquarters in mobilizing and organizing all MK elements from our regions in order for them to be integrated into the new National Defense Force. During that period from 1992, Sean was working with a comrade called Kondi. At the 18th floor, they had their own little office, which always had a queue because they were dealing with what is called special projects to assist our comrades who had just recently arrived. And you would never be able to get Sean out of that office because he was a hardworking person. Other comrades came from other regions, from the Eastern Cape, from the Northern Cape, from Northwest, from Mpumalanga, from Limpopo, and they would be assisting these comrades with this project. And this was the kind of a person he was, always ready to assist. And he was very, very generous as an individual when we were at the office, because when we just arrived, a lot of us for some time at Shell House, because of the kind of an organization we are, sometimes for the first 2-3 months, we're not even able to get salaries. And Sean would be there to take you out for lunch and assist you. He was a very dependable comrade in that respect. I must say, it's seldom that years are so wrought with unprecedented grief that one can feel the unmatched gaze of history looking down on each passing day. Fortunately, years like 2020 have become less frequent, but it was not long ago that our nation was all too familiar with the pain of living through an unyielding season of loss and strife. It is during these dark days that we look to people who once helped us weather the storms of perseverance as it is now, in our most uncertain of hours in human history that makes losing them all the more difficult to bear. Sean was the kind of a remarkable individual who dedicated his life to the call to service of his countrymen during the most crucial and dangerous of times. His selfless courage, determination, and resilience stands out as light posts on how to proceed now that his fierce guiding compass has returned home. Without the fight of him and countless others, named and unnamed heroes like him, the freedom of our nation would not ring as crisp. Their service will never be forgotten and will forever be our torch to continue to pass so that our children's children always remember the importance of Ubuntu and freedom. Sean was a professional soldier, was a professional officer. He was the kind of a person who, to the last, was there to uphold the constitution of our country. He was not the kind of an officer who would be knocking at doors of politicians to brief them about what is happening within the Defense Force. When we entered into the integration, because we had to receive training, and Sean and myself attended various courses. We met in Luata for about 4 to 5 months, and later we met together at the joint staff course. During that period, I'm glad to say that Sean showed himself to be very honest, very inclusive as a comrade, and a person who is for unity of our country, unity of everybody across, whether you come from with whatever province. Is a kind of a person who has never even asked me, from which province do you come from? We all work together. He was a very, very serious comrade. And Sean, we will miss him, his example. He never had a sense of entitlement that because he had contributed, as described from Kakulamba, in Vienna and all the camps he had been in exile. Now that he is back, the nation and the people of South Africa must pay him back with something. He always worked very, very hard. He went through the grill of cadreship. He went through the grill of officership within the Defense Force, and he never complained after his placement in the Defense Force as a lieutenant colonel, and he rose to become a full colonel, after which then he was transferred into the Defense Secretariat. And when there were challenges within the Defense Secretariat, Sean decided that he will actually go back to the college whilst he was working and get his MBA in order for him to be ready for his promotions. And he did excellent, acquitted him very, very well as a typical cadre of the movement, as a typical cadre of Umkhonto Sizwe. And up till the end, he was very, very honest, acquitted himself with the greatest of example. We will really, really miss him. He reminds us of unshakable South African spirit that withstands the deepest of darkness and lives as a beacon of unity, empathy, strength. Thank you, Sean, for your dedication, your contribution, and friendship. We thank your family for sharing you with us for all the years you were in exile, for the years when you came back and you spent time within the Defense Force, spent hours. I just want to close by saying Che Guevara described the people like Sean as social reformers who took up arms, responding to the angry protests of their own people against oppressors. He fought in order to change a social system that keeps his people who are unarmed, his brothers, to get them out of misery. Sean was such a fine, serious, young revolutionary. We will always miss him. I thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Those were the words that described the revolutionary we today paying tribute to. It reminds me the words that were always said during those days, that a true revolutionary would be the one that you would see in difficult times. The privilege of such a revolutionary is to work in difficult situations and die with pride. These are the qualities of our comrade, such as Comrade Izzadien. Thank you very much, Comrade Pepani. I still want to give an opportunity to the representative of MKMVA, Comrade Fumanekile Boy. I don't know whether she has managed to log in, because we would have wanted to hear a message from that institution. Comrade Fumanekile. All right. And then Comrade Cindy Ditlhake from Matrosov. Well, we missed out on those two comrades, but the speakers that have today spoke here, they have indeed covered the life of this great man. Wherever we are today, we know who is Izzadien Kahn. We all know today who is Igshaan Dangor, a member of Umkhonto Sizwe, a dedicated soldier, a father, a brother, a family man, a comrade. This is who Comrade Izzadien was. I'm sure Comrade DSG, listening to all of the speakers here, I would wish to record what has always been my desire, that at one point, the African National Congress should create a platform where revolutionaries, individuals that have made a contribution to the struggle are given an opportunity to talk about themselves while they are still alive. So that all of the things that we say here, we may as well have heard directly from them. And young people will interact directly with them, ask them questions while they are still alive. We don't wait for moments when they have departed and we speak about them, or even go to the extent of speaking about them while they are listening, because they have done so much. They deserve the accolades while they are still there listening to us. Maybe one day, the African National Congress will heed this call, create a platform, allow many of these revolutionaries before they leave us to share with us their lives, because it's interesting, it's educating. It may inspire many more young people alike, so that they can be able to move on the track of those that came before them. Thank you very much, comrades who have made the reflections. I would want to move forward in terms of the program to give an opportunity to family members to pay their tribute to one of their own, to their blood brother, to their father, to their next of kin. And on my list, I have 3 of the family members. It's Shan, it's Musa, it's Zain. I'm going to allow them to speak, the 3 of them, without any interference. I'm inviting you now on the stage to pay a tribute.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would just like to thank everyone who has tuned in, who has celebrated and spoke such kind words of my father. My name is Shanae, so definitely taken from my father's name. And hearing all the stories, especially now after his passing, it just confirms the man that he was. My father, from a very young age, he would tell me stories of him being in the jungle, of his MK days. And he was a tough soldier, but he was very, very gentle with us. He loved us, he loved his family, he loved his brothers, his sister, his nephews, his nieces, and anyone who came into contact with him was infected by his presence. He had a very infectious smile, very, very humble soul. And he never, even though he was so humble, he stood for what he believed in. And that's something that he always taught, he always taught us to do, to stand for what is right, to never give up. No matter what challenges he would face, he'd face it head on. I remember there were times when things weren't going well, and he'd tell us, you face every situation with strength, without fear. And it never got him down. He was a very cheerful person, always whistling, always singing here at the house, always dancing. And I think that coming from the life that he came from, I think he achieved the life he wanted. When I would speak to him, I'd ask him, what do you want from this life? and he'd tell me, I want peace, because happiness is relative. You create happiness in each situation that you're in. So for me, he was a very intelligent man, very complex. And over the years, I got to understand who he was. And I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of everything that he's achieved. I'm proud of everything that he's done. And I'm very proud of the poetry as well. I did not know he was in a poetry group, but my sister takes after him in that regard. She loves poetry. She loves spoken word. So even though he's not here anymore, his spirit lives on in us. He taught us to never forsake our integrity. Always taught us to tackle things head on. And even being at the memorial this morning, it just made me realize actually how big of an impact he had, not only for this country, but in our lives, in a lot of people's lives. So I salute him. He was the bravest, most courageous man I knew, full of love, always there to help someone, very observant, very strategic. And I just want to salute him, and I salute all of you. Thank you so much for everything that you have done for my family and I. There's no words to describe how much it means to us. We are humbled and we are grateful, and we will make him proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Musa, unmute. Musa, you mute. You must unmute.
Shanas, are you able to help?
He's unmuted. He must speak.
Maybe the sound is off.
Mm.
Sound button and just put it on. Should be at the top of your computer. It's like, yeah, an F10 or F11, something like that.
Did he log in with audio, Comrade Shanas?
Yes, it did. It's unmuted.
Hear me now?
Yes, yes. Thank you very
Hi everyone. Sorry, some technical problems, but these things happen to us, eh?
They do.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak about my brother, my younger brother, but also my hero. You know, the two of us grew up together. I'm only 2 years older than Chan, so we shared much. And I've got many memories of Shan, so it'll take a lifetime to speak about it. But in a nutshell, Shan was a guy who, since he's a rebel since birth, you know, and we grew up in a very rough environment, but we grew up in a family where values were most important. So our classroom was more at home than it was at school. And as we grew older, our motto became freedom before education. And then Shan took it to its ultimate. He gave the ultimate sacrifice for the freedom we all enjoy today. You know, when I reflect about Shan and my other siblings, Mamad and Ahmad and Jesse, and the environment in which we grew up in, our entire life seemed to have been a debate about where we are and where we should be. And Igshaan was such a guy. He always fulfilled what he promised. Since a young kid, whatever Igshaan promised, you were sure that he would fulfill that promise. And, you know, I reflect on the days when, as teenagers, when we debated on Black consciousness and where the so-called colored parties were going, and the tricameral system that they had. And I remember Igshaan one day, he was stoning the double-story home of this one person who was involved in this tricameral parliament, so to speak. And, you know, that to me was an indication that Igshaan was on his way getting out of that type of oppressed society, and he was going to fight. And he left us as a youth, and he returned as a soldier. And I can't say much. Everything that's could have been said about Igshaan has been said. A great guy. And Mojalefa, as you said earlier on, perhaps it is time the ANC considered giving the freedom fighters, guys who were prepared to sacrifice their lives, the opportunity to let their history become alive now while they are alive, and let it become part of our curricula in our schools as well. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Comrade Musa. Zain. Comrade Zain.
Hi, good afternoon, comrades. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks. I think a lot has been said today about Igshaan, our brother. I think what I'd like to thank all the MK comrades for sharing in as much detail as possible their experiences with Igshaan in exile in his time in Angola. I think it gave us a picture that we have not had before. I mean, we knew about what he did and how he did it, but this tapestry of experiences and memories is important for us to hear. You know, the MK names, the combat names, the camps, even the battles, the detail of the training is important for us to hear as well, because we knew Igshaan before he left and after he left, and the Igshaan that came back was quite different. And I think you are the people that helped shape him in that way, and we thank you for that. You know, as Musa said, you know, our childhood, I mean, a lot of beautiful memories in our childhood, a house full of activists, and, you know, divergent views from BC activists to underground MK, ANC cadres like Jesse from a young age. And we learned from all of them, and we learned from each other. And aside, you know, in the early years, we also had some hardships. And Jesse and Mohammed will forgive me for divulging one of those, because I think it's a very important memory for me, is that for a while, myself and my elder brother Abbas had to live with slightly outside of the household in a rather difficult set of circumstances. You know, when my mom married a rather abusive man. And I remember a 14-year-old Igshaan, 14 or 15-year-old Igshaan, without cell phones or any other way of knowing that he needed to be there, was always there for us. And one occasion that stands out is, you know, this man had bought a new car, and Igshaan proceeded to break every window, every headlight, with every lash that this man gave us. And he thought Igshaan was bluffing. By the time he finished his new car was completely smashed. So that was Igshaan, the protector of me and others in the early years. And it happened for many, many years where this fearless person, as Mo would describe him before he went into exile, was gentle, was kind-hearted, but also had a streak in him that demonstrated why he would end up, doing the number 9 with a gun over his head in the camps in Angola with Mojalefa and others. Yeah. The middle years before he left into exile, when we were all activists, I mean, we didn't spend, myself and him didn't spend much time together because I was at university, I was in the US, and I was in Cape Town at the point when he left the country. I was in the student movement. But I do remember the later years when he returned. The first few months of Sean's return was, he forgot to call me by my first name. I was Povo, I was this civilian that he needed to debate with. And when he felt that this debate was getting a bit much, he just said, "What do you Povos know?" So I think this is the kind of issues that and I think, what Mojalefa is saying is so true. We need to hear this firsthand. We've had Barry Gilder's book, we've had other books, but we need to have these kind of oral testimonies or some way of getting you guys to speak about your experiences and how it shaped you in terms of your experiences there and coming back. Much of his later years, I mean, we were both in government, we were both in the same movement, but we also had our families, and our weddings took place in the same year. Our families, our children are more or less the same age. So we've shared wonderful memories of our children growing up together. And Sean and I, perhaps sometimes when we had a little bit too much of the fermented grape, red grape, he would insist on saluting even me, because he felt that the Povo had developed into something that he could respect at some point. My last memory of Sean, not my last memory, it's a bad word to use, my last activity of real meaning with him was 4 weeks ago when we washed the body of our brother Ahmed. The two of us, being the youngest available brothers, were asked to go through the Muslim ritual of washing our brother's body before he got buried. And I remember we took our time. We were both in shock. And we both took our time with it. I mean, we were not the experts and we were guided by the experts, but we did it. But that ritual took so much time. And I've done it before, but in many ways it was almost as if that ritual was for Sean as well, from my side, on behalf of the family, because it was a ritual that he could not be afforded by us, given that he died of COVID related illnesses. So again, the pain of the last few months, but I think I'll carry that memory of his and me together washing Ahmed's body and preparing him for the afterlife. All the comrades spoke about the poetry group, Comrade Mojalefa, Opa, and Opa is an accomplished poet himself. And Umbulelo shared with me very early on when I met Umbulelo. He told me the story about Sean's poem in Afrikaans, and I wish I could get that poem. We need to, I don't know if he's written it down. Shanae, you guys will have to look for in his archives if you can find it. But I'd like to end off with a poem that I wrote for Sean in the last week or so. In honor of his own poetry and the poetry group that he was part of with his MK comrades. It's entitled Sudden Theft. Images, voices, smells, touches, recalling all for your memorial. A specific event I wanted to decant. Some images blur, blunted recollections stir. and I reached to call you, hey, do you remember? Then I remember that you had just left, another pandemic theft. I remember I am writing your memorial, recalling your images, voices, smells, touches. But I want to call you because I have not accepted the theft of you. I will conclude my little input on that poem. I will carry many, many, many beautiful memories of myself and Sean. And I just hope that Abbas can hear some of this, our brother in Australia, because the three of us, and together with Musa, we spoke with the youngest four, and almost all four of us were taken into Jesse's house, together with Patrick Flask and many others. So at some point, Jessie must tell us about her story as well, as you know, because she shaped Sean and many of us, and sometimes people forget that. Comrade Majalefa, thank you. I will leave it there.
Thank you very much, Comrade Zain. Indeed, that completes the picture of the life of Comrade Sean. I think everybody else, wherever you're watching, you now know who was Comrade Igshaan Dangor. You now have a full picture that this is one individual who is in the category of the great fighters, many people that have contributed. He joins many more that today are no longer with us, but their spirit continues to be with us in everything that we do. We'll always remember such comrades. I still have omitted comrades Fumanekile and Cindy, but as I said earlier on, I have to move with the program. We would have loved to hear them say something about this great soldier, but unfortunately time is no longer on my side, because at this stage I have to invite the comrade who is going to be doing a eulogy. But I want to recognize the presence in our midst of the Deputy Minister of Defense, Comrade Thabang Makwetla, who I am definitely sure that he is well acquainted and has interacted one way or the other with Comrade Sean. I also want to recognize the presence in our midst of our former DSG, Comrade Tenjiwe Ntinzu, who is also a soldier of Umkhonto with Sizwe, who has seen it all in as far as the military life of Umkhonto with Sizwe is concerned, and thanks for their presence. Without any waste of time, I want to invite Comrade Ayanda Dlodlo, a member of the National Executive Committee, member of our cabinet, to present a eulogy of Comrade Igshaan Dangor. Comrade Ayanda. I know that she was traveling from I think Senegal, if I'm not mistaken. Comrade Phoebe would assist me. As perhaps comrades are still trying to get hold of Comrade Ayanda, or to know where she is and whether she'll be able to present the eulogy. May I just once again check whether Comrade Fumanekile is here, and perhaps I can steal a minute or two by asking Comrade Lefika Cheti. Comrade Lefika Cheti, just to say something about Comrade Sean. I know Comrade Lefika would share with us how much he knows Comrade Sean. Comrade Lefika Cheti.
No, thanks, comrade. I hope the audio is going to be okay because it hasn't been good. But I want to just very briefly share my own reflections on Comrade Shan. The past days I've been trying to understand our loss. This morning, I think we had such a wonderful and moving opportunity at his memorial at Defense, and I think General Shoker had summed everything so very well in his input. But for me, you know, as I try and recollect who Comrade Shan was, I can't speak with the personal experiences that our veterans have been speaking about. I'm speaking in a different category. So I was thinking about veterans that I've lost myself. In 2017, I lost two veterans very close to me. On the 9th of June, we lost Comrade Toivo Yatoivo. A few days later, we lost K. Monsami. And these two giants, these two veterans, had taken me through a short period of time and taught me about humility, taught me about integrity. And when I had known Comrade Shan, that is what he also showed me. He was in that same category. He was in that same league. Everybody has shared with us their own experiences of Comrade Shan's humility, of his commitment. And I can say that although right now it is a painful moment for all of us, for the family, for all of us as comrades, but with pride, I could, for myself, know that it was a privilege to have known Comrade Shan, to have picked up from him what so many other veterans gone by have also shared with us. Thank you.
Unmute Mujalifa.
Oh.
Unmute.
I get muted from time to time. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I'm told that Comrade Ayanda is still in the air, and there will be somebody reading the eulogy on her behalf. And I am inviting Comrade Phoebe, or is it Comrade Kabelo, who will do the reading. Thank you very much.
Dangor and Dorothy families, Igshaan's widow, Denise Dangor, his two daughters, Shanae and Shanice, comrades and friends in the defense and military fraternity.
Comrade Phoebe, you're not very audible.
Okay. Where's your... Okay, once again, our country and its citizens is called upon to mourn the sad passing of one of its finest liberation fighters. As a former Umkhonto Sizwe soldier and later a senior administrator in the South African National Defence Force, Comrade Igshaan never ceased to aspire for a non-racial, non-sexist and democratic South Africa. Throughout his membership of the African National Congress and its Liberation Army, Umkhonto Sizwe, he dedicated his life to the freedom of his people and spared neither strength nor courage to see this dream realized. We would like to take this opportunity to send our deepest condolences to his wife and children, his brothers and sister, and indeed the entire family. Your family has been robbed of an outstanding son, husband, and father. And in the same vein, South Africa and the Liberation Fraternity has lost a soldier, an amazing civil servant, and an unrelenting campaigner for justice. Comrade Dangor joins a litany of other liberation heroes and fighters who equally never hesitated to lay down their lives so that our country and its people can be free. His name will be inscribed in the history books of the liberation struggle as one of those who put the interests of their people first. As a proud member of the Young Lions detachment who joined the ranks of our army in the early 80s, he was amongst the combatants who pushed the final nail to the apartheid coffin. We mourn his death at a critical time when our country and the entire globe are detained at the clutches of a cruel pandemic that has destroyed lives and livelihoods of nations across the globe. The COVID-19 pandemic, to which Comrade Dangor also succumbed, has taken many lives and in the process left many families vulnerable and with little or no hope for the future. Across the globe, health systems have suffered a tremendous strain, economies have regressed, jobs have been lost, which has left everyone in a state of panic. In our own countries, we are grappling with the imperative of economic recovery and reconstruction, to which everybody must lend a hand if we are to succeed. Our government, together with the people of South Africa, played a great and important part and continue to do so to avert the spread and impact of this pandemic. This is a massive struggle, and I would like to thank all South Africans who continue to observe the protocols relating to the fight against COVID-19. We have never been here before, and the collective strength and effort that we have displayed during this time proves that if we unite and focus on one goal, we can achieve our goal of building this country together. We deeply regret the loss of life we have suffered because of this pandemic, including the life of Comrade Dangor. One death is one too many, and thus we must continue to exercise due care because the pandemic has not left our shores yet. We can do the same in defeating the ills of lawlessness, crime, and violence that seems to be engulfing our various communities. Earlier today, before addressing the solemn occasion, we visited the community of Senekal, which is experiencing a wave of violence as a result of some clashes within and among communities in the area. At the outset, we made it clear that a majority of South Africans are law-abiding citizens who respect the rule of law and the country's constitution. We cannot allow right-wing elements to infiltrate our communities and fuel racial tensions. The reality is that every citizen of our country is equal before the law, and for that reason, due legal processes need to be respected and followed to the latter. This is the kind of legacy that we must seek to install for the sake of Comrade Dangor and those who came before him. They left the country under difficult conditions of struggle, took up arms in order to defeat a system that sought to subjugate and undermine humanity. They delivered political freedom and a constitution that puts human rights and dignity at the forefront of human existence. We cannot undermine that proud legacy, and those of us who remain must pick up the spear of Comrade Dangor and his fellow combatants to defend the gains of their hard-earned revolution. Comrade Dangor also departs us at a time when our movement is experiencing a difficult time in terms of its own unity and cohesion. Despite the countless efforts and maneuvers at unity and renewal, The tendencies of factional battles and self-centeredness persist to its own detriment. Disturbing scenes of public political bickering among senior comrades of our movement do not augur well for the much-needed project of unity and renewal. Leadership and political maturity requires that we respect each other as comrades, but not only that, also respect for the ANC itself and what it stands for. We have a proud history and legacy as a liberator and custodian of our people's aspiration, and we must resist the temptation to relinquish that historical responsibility this critical time of our revolution where our people need us the most. So we must stop our bickering and start the work to renew the ANC back to its glory. The moment is now for the ANC to cast aside these tendencies that have damaged its historical image and embark on a critical and necessary path of self-renewal and correction. The struggle for self-renewal and the unity of the ANC is linked to the struggle to finally free our society from the bondage of poverty and want. We can only achieve this noble goal if we have a strong and united African National Congress. As a matter of fact, it is the ANC members and not anyone else that will take the cudgels and save the ANC from self-destruction. The movement must define the type of cadre it wants in its ranks and discard the type that fuels its disunity. Despite the broad and open nature of its membership, the ANC has a responsibility to recruit, train, mentor, and guide its membership to embrace the values of integrity, honesty, and commitment to the struggle for the emancipation of the poor. It is only through building a strong ANC with integrity and accountability to the people of South Africa that the memory of comrades like Comrade Igshaan Dangor will be cherished. We will miss his bravery, forthrightness, and commitment to the freedom struggle of the African people. Hamba Kashle Umkhonto, I thank you on behalf of Comrade Ayanda Dlodlo. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Comrade Phoebe. On behalf of Comrade Ayanda Dlodlo, member of Umkhonto with Sizwe herself. At this point, comrades, I'm going to invite Comrade Shanice to read the obituary of Comrade Igshaan Dangor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will be reading the obituary of my father, Igshaan Dangor. Born in Johannesburg on the 17th of October, 1958, Igshaan Dangor was a public servant, a soldier, a freedom fighter with Umkhonto we Sizwe. Igshaan was born in Nuclear, a township in Johannesburg, adjacent to what was known as Western Native Township and then Western Colored Township, following the forced removals of people not classified as colored. His mother, the late Igshaan Dangor, was a garment worker and a dressmaker. His father, Ibrahim Dangor, was a shoe salesman. Igshaan attended Chris J. Botha High School in Nuclear Township. Igshaan was born into a family where engagement in the struggle of apartheid was almost a requirement. In the mid-1980s, Igshaan left the country to join Umkhonto we Sizwe, the armed struggle wing of the ANC, known as Izzadien Kahn. His combat name in the camps in Angola, where he completed his training. Igshaan was close to other struggle heroes, such as the late Anton Franch, among others. Igshaan survived one of the last ambushes by UNITA in Angola. Igshaan returned to South Africa in 1989 to build internal ANC structures. Igshaan integrated into the military in 1994, following the first democratic elections in the country. He served the Army and later the Department of Defense with distinction and dedication over the years. At the time of his death, he served as Chief Director of Finance. On his return, Igshaan also returned to study and completed an MBA in 2011 through Mancosa. Sean married Denise Jennifer Germain in 1990 in Kimberley. Sean and Denise had 2 daughters, Shanae and Shanice. They lived at their home in Florida Lake until the day of his passing. Igshaan leaves behind his lovely and devoted wife Denise and his daughters Shanae and Shanice, his sister Jesse Duarte, and his brothers Muhammad, Musa, Abbas, and Zain. Igshaan passed away shortly after the death of his eldest brothers Suleiman and then Ahmed, in what has been a tragic and traumatizing 3 months for him and ultimately those who he left behind too. Lest we forget, he is remembered and mourned by his comrades in the MK and his colleagues from the South African National Defence Force. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanice. Comrades, this brings us to the end of a very rich memorial service of Comrade Igshaan Dangor. We would want really to thank all the speakers that spoke today. And I just want to steal the words of our DSG, Comrade Jesse, when closing as a program director at the funeral of Comrade John Nkadimeng, because the words that she said there, I think, are very relevant as well to the event today. And she said, I quote, "The values that he personified of service to the people, humility, honesty, patience, hard work, integrity, and discipline must become internalized by all of us," close quote. I think this is what should summarize everything that comrades have said today, and many more who have wanted to say the very same thing, but may not have been in the same program. But surely all of us, we will make sure that we implement the motto of Umkhonto we Sizwe on such occasion. And that is to say, the spear has fallen. And all of us, we will never let this spear touch the ground. We will pick it up. We will move forward. We will advance everything else that Comrade Igshaan Dangor stood for. We'll continue to soldier on. We'll march on up to a point where all the ideals that he stood for are achieved. I'm taking the privilege of talking on behalf of the ANC as the program director, a privilege that I would not have maybe some other time, but now that I'm a program director, I'm speaking on behalf of the African National Congress to thank the Dangor family, to thank you for having allowed Igshaan Dangor to be part of this revolutionary movement, for allowing him to have been part of us, for sharing him with all of us. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you very much to the family. And thank you very much to all the participants, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us in this memorial service. And indeed, we all are saying, may the soul of Comrade Igshaan Dangor rest in revolutionary peace. At this moment, may I ask the revolutionary song as we close the event. Thank you very much.
Tina baba Umkhonto sinisele ukuwabulala wona amabhulu Thina bantu bomkhonto sizimisele ukuwabulala wona amabhulu. Hamba kahle mkhonto, wemkhonto, mkhonto wesizwe. Hamba kahle mkhonto, wemkhonto, mkhonto wesizwe.